Hey there, fellow wanderers. You find yourself at the edge of a dark, ancient forest, where the trees loom like watchful sentinels and the morning fog clings stubbornly to the ground. The air is crisp-sharp enough to sting your lungs tinged with the scent of wet leaves, moss, and something older, something watching. Beneath your worn boots, twigs crack like whispers. Every rustle feels like a warning. Your breath curls into the chilled silence, merging with the mist like a ghost fleeing into the woods. This isn't a myth. This is history. And no, you probably won't survive this hunt without frostbitten fingers, a missed arrow, or worse, being hunted yourself. So, before we track deeper into the thickets of the past, I ask only this. If this kind of raw, unvarnished truth speaks to you, click like, hit subscribe, and leave a trace of yourself in the comments. Tell me your city, your time, your state of mind. Now, dim the lights. Let the hum of your fan blend with the rustle of medieval branches. Let's begin. And remember, in medieval times, even survival was a luxury. As you trudge further into the greenery, you begin to appreciate the stark realities of a medieval hunter's life. Long days spent in the wilderness offer few comforts. Your feet sink into the wet earth, and just a small reminder of how utterly unrelenting such a day could be. Imagine that each chilly morning begins with reaching for what passes, as a weapon crudely fashioned and worn, your livelihood and lifeline all rolled into one. On top of hunger, thirst scratches at the back of your throat, ever present but never entirely quenched. Even the water from the cold creek is a dubious friend, promising relief from thirst but potentially offering an unwanted courtship with illness in return. Contrary to romanticized tales of living freely off the land, you are persistently negotiating your survival with nature's whimsical generosity. Not all the discomforts of this life are immediate or tangible. The silence of your solitary journey seeps into your mind, a silence that is sporadically pierced by distant howls or ominous bird calls. These sounds hold the promise of both potential prey and predators, as well as a reminder of your vulnerability in the grand scheme of things. In these dark woods, humanity feels like just another creature, trying to survive the elements and coexist with nature's formidable forces. In contemporary terms, it's as if you lived your entire life commuting to a workplace with no promise of a paycheck, only to face critique from both your colleagues and other hunter-sand critics from the town. It's a job where the product of your labor is needed every single day, but appreciation for your labor is as rare as a rabbit in its burrow. Then there is the matter of clothing, the necessity of which increases with every step further into the biting wind. Unlike the insulating marvels we wrap ourselves in today, your garments are layers of rough-spun wool or patched leather, providing scant protection against the chill. Historians still argue whether the average medieval hunting gear offered enough warmth, or if hypothermia loomed constantly one misstep away from the evening fire. And remember, the forest path ahead is not like the well-trodden trails of our modern hiking expeditions. You navigate through dense thickets and tangled roots by sheer instinct. There are no maps, just your trained eye and, hopefully, the fading footprints of a stag or wild boar, indistinct on the forest floor like faint echoes of a promise that may yet fail to materialize. It's a harsh lesson in perseverance and patience, virtues honed to razor sharpness out of necessity rather than choice, a theme we will encounter many times. In an era where your next meal is not guaranteed until it's swinging from your belt or slung over your shoulder, it's worth remembering that the hunter's life, endlessly romanticized in tales of yore, was far more grueling than adventuristic. Each animal sighted is not just a set of antlers or a plump prize, but a beacon of hope for a full belly in the days to come. The daily struggle is accentuated by a community that relies heavily on your success but seldom offers aid. The medieval social structure keeps hunters on the fringes, perceiving them as both necessary and separate, much like the outlaws of their tales. Hunters endure both practical and societal challenges, their realities often a melange of surprisingly modern critiques and ancient burdens. As you tread lightly through these thoughts, remember that every whispered leaf or snapped twig can symbolize another turn in a hunter's fate. Here, on this edge where civilization fades into the wild, you are neither hero nor villain, but merely a player in a world unscripted, where nature is constantly rewriting the rules. As the day stretches its skeletal frame into the somber tones of late afternoon, The familiar personal quest resumes once more, picking up where ancient tracks have blended into tales both heard and forgotten. In this murmur of past lives, you journey deeper still, into the world that was, and realize there are few luxuries to be found out here, and even fewer distractions beyond the survival that knits today to tomorrow. As you step deeper into the medieval wilderness, the cold begins to gnaw at you like a relentless predator in its own right. The sensation slips through layers of clothing, uninvited and insistent, settling into your bones. It's that kind of chill that feels alive, curling its icy fingers into the slightest gap of cloth. It's a reminder of the silent battle against the elements that every hunter wages from dawn until dusk, and sometimes long into the night. The medieval times knew little of our modern insulation luxuries. There are no thermally lined boots or heat-preserving fabrics here. Your footwear is a combination of leather and fur, offering only a temporary respite from the biting cold. Every step breaks a light crust of frost, accompanying your journey with a crunch that sounds far too loud, a perfect broadcast of your presence to both prey and potential predators. You feel the sharpness of the air as you inhale, each breath punctuated by the crispness of an early frost. It numbs your nose and makes your eyes water, prompting you to keep them squinted, transforming the mere act of walking into a singular focus. This doesn't even consider the other sensory overloads, like the way your fingers feel stiffened by icy winds when reaching for your tools, making the notion of a quick draw more fantasy than reality. Historians still argue whether medieval hunters developed techniques to fully adapt to the cold, or if it simply became another burden to bear alongside hunger and fatigue. As you search for signs of life within the stark, skeletal forest, every patch of shadow seems to stretch and contract, proclaiming secrets only the truly patient might whisper back into the quiet. In this timeless battle with the cold, your senses play tricks, morphing normal shapes into elusive glimpses of movement. Perhaps a deer standing still, observing its observer from within a cluster of bare trunks, or perhaps just another figment of your imagination, made vibrant by wishful thinking and the way the light dances on the snow. Yet, there are moments, brief and fleeting, where clarity shines through the icy haze. You spot tracks amongst the frost-draped ground, a trail left by a creature recently ambling through. You kneel, ignoring the cold that seeps into your knees, and inspect the imprints with care. Here, your adversary is deciphered not in a hurried chase, but in the ancient language of the hunter, reading the ground with 1,000 tiny stories etched in its surface. The journey continues into the heart of the forest, where each snowy path charts a course shadowed by towering pines, their boughs laden with the season's harsh weight. There is a wry humor to be found here, a paradox. While the cold is an unwelcome companion, it's this very element that also fells your prey, slowing it, altering its routines. The frost is a sculptor of threads unseen, threads which intertwine the fates of hunter and hunted in mutual struggle against their shared adversary. You find your mind drifting to the comfort of distant fireside tales, stories in which the cold is a dragon to be vanquished or a sorceress casting spells over the land. In reality, however, medieval hunters knew the cold not as an entity of myth, but as an omnipresent force, as real and significant as their most steadfast rivalries. They recognized that their success was less about conquering this elemental adversary and more about learning to endure its stubborn presence. Light-hearted jests come to mind, the thought of icicle mustaches or frostbitten beards, adding an extra dimension to the fierce expressions carved by days of relentless pursuits. Your imagination wanders into today's world, picturing social media posts declaring frosty but fierce with perfectly filtered snapshots. The hunter's struggle, a mere backdrop for intrigue, rather than a livelihood-tested endurance. These thoughts, like all others, fade as dusk begins its slow descent across the sky. There's an irony here, where the deepening cold demands both action and caution, a pressing need to secure safety while conserving energy, lest your journey becomes an endless loop of snowy endeavors. As the last light wanes, you grasp the fragile gift of fading warmth, promising hearths and blankets that seem like faraway dreams in mere memory. You realize that here, in this expanse where hope is measured in the warmth of an ember or the heft of a meal slung over your shoulder, even the cold is woven into the hunter's very being. It's a baptism of endurance and acceptance, where each day's survival proves testament to a litany of stubborn triumphs over nature's wintry grasp. The forest silent yet alive holds its own embrace, teaching that the cold may be a relentless enemy, but it's also an ever-present companion, a ritual initiation into harsher truths that far outlast the icy months. As you navigate these insistent chill winds, you inch closer into centuries of shared legacy, forged in the kind of perseverance few comprehend today, one snowy step at a time. You step further into the forest, surrounded by a harmonious dissonance of natural soundscapes. The air thrums with an eerie symphony that only the deepest woods can compose. Each tree stands as a grand instrument, its branches groaning slightly under the weight of time, the wind plucking them skillfully like strings, creating a melody unique to your journey. Sounds travel in the still air, unmuted by modern life's competing noise, unfurling a tapestry of audible talisman as old as the forest itself. The woodland sounds transform into an intricate orchestra, the subtle howling of distant wolves, the faint rustle of leaves as small creatures scuttle unseen, the drip-drip of melting frost forming icicles on the branches above. It's more than just background noise. It's a living, breathing part of the medieval hunter's world, orchestrating the rise and fall of every day's emotions, echoing with possible dangers or rare chances of bounty. As you walk, your mind imagines these trees as sentinels, each trunk a witness to centuries of stories. Here, under the canopy, the muffled footfall of your own tread mingles with nature's chorus, a collaboration of presence marked by nature's rhythm, which either comforts or unnerves, depending on the day. Hunters in medieval times learned to listen here, to adapt. Silence could be a promise or a deception within these living walls. It's moments like this, amidst a discordant serenade, that you understand the thin line between enchantment and treachery. The forest can sound welcoming, but holds 1,000 hidden secrets as soon as the light shifts from day to night. Historians still argue whether the dense woods of medieval Europe were perceived as true havens or ominous barriers, cloaking paths into unknown lands, more vivid than any map. Your senses sharpen with every step, suddenly alert to a twig snapping nearby. Such a sound instantly electrifies your every nerve friend, foe, or merely forest. These are the questions that occupy a medieval hunter's mind. It isn't long before you find your heartbeat synchronizing to the drumbeat of nature, each pulse echoing with the forest's undercurrent. Here, the concept of rhythm takes on an entirely new meaning, for it's in these moments of alignment with the earth that your hunter's instinct tugs you along, deeper into the tableau. A squirrel chatters, a squirrel's scold to a rival, or perhaps to you a foreign presence impinging on its territory. In this setting, you mentally list each sound, categorizing them instinctively from years of practiced vigilance. The persistent chatter of birds high above, or the abrupt silence they share, reveals more about the forest's happenings than any visual cue ever could. Within this natural score, every rustle and call tells a story, shares a warning, or whispers a welcome you must decide how to interpret. You may even smile as you imagine the forest's sounds translated to sheet music, envisioning a conductor composing a soundtrack for everyday life here. Each note, a precision arrangement dictated not by human hand, but by unfathomable wilderness. There is humor to be found in such musings. Nature as the ultimate composer, upstaging humanity's greatest maestro without effort. Beneath the humor lies an ancient understanding. With time, hunters become adept at distinguishing between the songs of normality and those of alarm. Even the trees joining in the song, creaking ominously under the weight of potential snowfall, enter this code of the auditory forecast. You grow attuned, both comforted and cautioned by this dappled symphony. The cacophony of the wilderness becomes purposeful, each season adding its own dimension to the multi-layered soundscape. Underneath the celestial roof, you may just discover a near reverence for your place within it. This quiet domain challenges your perceptions. Are you participant, mere observer, or perhaps even if legend holds true a target for fairy antics, best narrated by fireside tales? As you blunt this eventual sense of foreboding with considered optimism, you inch closer to understanding your predecessor's deep and visceral connection with nature, where each walk into the woods was less harrowing adventure and more a test of symbiotic existence. These woodlands, sounding simultaneously benevolent and menacing, helped shape the character and craft of the medieval hunter. Though clad in shadowed uncertainty, they unravel paths fraught with lessons more resonant than the trumpet of a lion-hearted call to courage. Here, woven into each day's medley, lies a fragile understanding. The world beyond the trees resonates more than just echolocation to find the day's need sits, a vital reminder that every moment, teamed with fate's melody and rhythm, guides the artist's hand along the canvas of survival. As the shadows in the forest lengthen and twist into one another, you feel the first pangs of hunger gnawing at the edges of your consciousness. It's a sensation that medieval hunters knew all too well, a constant companion that drove every step and decision. The growl of an empty stomach merges with the forest sounds, a stark reminder that you must find nourishment before the day's light slips away entirely. Your thoughts wander to the elusive deer you've seen its tracks, felt the thrill of potential sustenance close at hand. But potential doesn't fill your stomach, and in the here and now, the reality of finding a meal seems as daunting as finding a needle in a haystack that has decided to move on its own. This isn't a world of supermarkets and ready meals. For a medieval hunter, every failed hunt could mean going to sleep with an emptiness gnawing much like the cold, deeper than mere physical discomfort, the kind that whispers to weariness and wakes you before dawn. Making your way through the bracken, you are keenly aware of the sounds of life around you, sounds that speak not only of danger and secrecy, but also of the promise of food. Hunger sharpens your senses, turning the ordinary into signs of hope. The rustle of a bush could speak of a rabbit hiding beneath, while the flutter of wings becomes the promise of a bird's nest, ripe with eggs. For hunters, each living sound becomes a cipher to be cracked, the prize being not just a meal buta, at least for a momenta, reprieve from the relentless pursuit of survival. In medieval times, hunger did not merely imply a lack of food. It carried with it a dangerous edge. Malnutrition weakened the body and dulled the mind, making every task far more difficult, every judgment call far more crucial. It was a shadow trailing every hunter, every farmer, every common soul striving to carve out their place in a harsh and often unforgiving world. This ceaseless hunger was more demanding than any watchful predator, testing not only your physical endurance but also your spirit. Imagine sitting by a meager fire, night unfurling its blanket of cold stars, your empty stomach a constant reminder of the day's failure. Historians still argue whether medieval hunters relied more on cunning or sheer luck to triumph over starvation, but it's evident that perseverance was their constant ally. Jesting aside, one might say, medieval hunting was the ultimate intermittent fasting plan. Pity there wasn't an influencer around to sell the benefits of hunter's diet, a mix of lean meats, unpredictably timed meals, and a hearty portion of hope. It's a regimen you'd likely market with a smile today, but in reality, endurance was the only thing hunters gained with certainty from this daily cycle of deprivation and fulfillment. As you push onward, the novelty of a hollow belly fades to tradition, prompting resourcefulness synonymous with survival. Perhaps here you gather edible roots, recalling the knowledge passed down through generations. You learn what berries won't betray you, what nuts give strength instead of sickness. Your hands busy themselves with foraging, and each find is a small victory in a grand and arduous campaign against the nagging hunger. In these moments of scrounging and vagabond fare, there's an unspoken bond with the hunter, a lifetime of habit reminding you never to turn up your nose at scraps, for they are your lifeline. It's a lesson learned as much as practiced, an ever-constant test of ingenuity, resourcefulness, and resilience. In the end, it becomes evident that the forest provides, albeit not always kindly. Even so, a hunter's survival was often secured not only by his own efforts but by unseen forces, the weather, animal migrations, luck, and the whims of naturars intertwined as the forest canopy upon which medieval life depended. As you make your way back homeward, with the day's attempts trailing behind like distant echoes, you hold on to the hope that tomorrow will end differently, that food will mark your return with abundance instead of emptiness. Embodying this initiation into an uncertain world, where hunger guides your path and the forest keeps its secrets close, you are reminded that in the medieval dance between supply and demand, every heartbeat, every footfall, and every breath is part of a larger saga narrative carved by resilience and relentlessly reshaped by time and necessity. The forest is an ancient adversary, where shadows hide both friend and foe, and as hunger gnaws with increasing insistence, you realize you are not the only one seeking sustenance. The medieval forest is far from empty and indifferent host to the multitudes of life that dwell within its confines. It's an ecosystem where you are both a predator and, disconcertingly, potential prey. As a medieval hunter, your awareness must expand beyond your immediate needs. Every rustle and distant howl signals that others, keener and faster, move through these trees with their own intentions. Wolves, those nighttime songsters, weave through the cold air like a chorus. Their calls a reminder of a pack's efficiency, driven by hunger akin to your own. To them, you may be an intruder to be chased away, or, in desperate times, a competitor in the most primitive of games, a contest for survival. Bears, too, roam these woodlands, possessing an overpowering strength that underscores your fragility. Historians still argue whether medieval hunters genuinely feared these great beasts, or if they were seen as creatures of awe, with the occasional storybook courage in pursuit of them. In truth, the logical balance was probably struck between respect, precaution, and a generous helping of self-preservation. You learn to not just scan the ground, but also to survey the branches above, where felines might defy expectations, challenging one's top-of-the-food chain fantasies. Suddenly, you see a movement ahead, a flash of fur in the dimly lit understory. Deer are plentiful, but a certain wariness hangs between you, a mutual understanding that the tables can turn swiftly. While their instinct is to flee, the threat of a charging stag in the rutting season is not something to dismiss lightly. It's a game of balance where both pursued and pursuer pay the same price for missteps. Even the smallest inhabitants pose their own dangers. The inquisitive badger or the sharp-eyed fox adds texture to the hunt, and though they might not target you as their prey, their paths often cross with yours in inconvenient ways. Their burrows and dens, cleverly hidden, become unexpected traps for the unwary foot. Add to that the mosquitoes, ticks, and other biting pests you inevitably encounter, and the simple act of staying unnoticed and unbitten becomes yet another nastily competitive ballet on this shared stage. Imagine, if you will, the irony of praying for rain. In today's urban landscapes, it might be a blessing for a picnic to be interrupted by a sprinkle, but in medieval times, rain changed the game altogether, masking scent, muffling sound, and potentially providing you the cloak of stealth that was only occasionally worth trading for the intensified chill that soaked through fabrics. But along with these little annoyances, the bigger fears remain, embodied in the occasional, awe-imposing revelations of vacated bear print, enormous and fresh in the mud, that pull you up short and reassert nature's hierarchy with an unsubtle clarity. The soundscape of the forest holds those dissonant notes of larger threats as well, a recognition that, while in the midst of one hunt, another might be entangling within its web-you at the center. Stories, of course, abound of wolves and men, the fables of lurking bears yielding body and soul during an errant dusk. Medieval tales warn of forest spirits, some malevolent and others protectorate. In these uncertain times, it's not just superstition, but an attempt to rationalize the forest's capriciousness, marking the line between existence and annihilation. It's a petrifying curiosity where your life entwines with nature's other occupants, navigating seasons of abundance and barely scraping through the leaner times. Within this unwelcome wilderness harmony, you sharpen not just your tools but your instincts too, taking each step with deliberation, immersed in survival's quietest notes between the roars. Returning from such encounters becomes an acceptance, a humility, really before the grandeur that dared to breathe before you, its creatures neither benevolent nor malign, merely fellow players on an ancient stage, none owned nor possessed. Here, in the shadowed recesses that wrap your solitary journey, your survival rests on more than aggression. It's a pursuit tempered with reverence for the rules of the woodland game, an endurance to the oldest contest of them all. Outlast, outwit, inhabit yet another sunrise in the dance with predators who shadow your every step. As you venture deeper into the forest, relying on your senses and instincts to guide you, every step through the rugged terrain serves as a constant reminder of just how dependent you are on your tools. In the medieval times, Your hunting gear was far from the sleek, efficient equipment found on today's store shelves. Instead, it was an array of primitive and unreliable instruments, crafted by hand from materials that nature grudgingly supplied. You clutch a bow, its wood rough in your grip, strung with a cord that you've twisted together from sinew. It's your primary weapon, and consequently, an extension of yourself. But unlike the carbon fiber marvels of today, the medieval bow is a capricious companion. The wood can warp when wet, and the string can fray with overuse. It's finicky, demanding constant care and attention, an unpredictable ally in the quest for survival. Every day, you check your arrows one by one. These are painstakingly shaped pieces of wood, tipped with flint or metal, and fletched with feathers that you've collected from the forest floor. They're a motley assortment, differing in balance and flight as much as their craftsmanship allowed. Historians still argue whether the development of bowmaking reached its peak during the medieval era or was hampered by the constant need for durable materials. But one truth remains. Each arrow feels like a gamble, a spin of the wheel in the game of life. In the absence of mass production, your gear speaks volumes of your skill and ingenuity. Each piece is unique, revealing not only its maker's hand, but also the tales of forests yielded over yearshars spent whittling, sanding, fitting. You learn to adapt with what you have, vigilant for repairs and adjustments, for it's these subtle nuances that dictate the difference between feast and famine, success and failure. The humor, if you can find it here, lies in imagining the loud complaints if our present-day technology glitched with such frequency. Imagine logging into your Spring's day virtual call, only to find that your phone decided to take a medieval-level sabbatical. Now picture holding that very device, as marred with arrows and filled with nostalgic candor each time its complications trickled into your day. Yet, your arsenal extends beyond weapons, a collection of sharply honed knives, each wielded as tools for everything from skinning to self-defense. The knives of the time, unlike shiny multi-tools today, are crude yet dependable extensions of your hands, coaxing life from every mark and line of a creature's harvest. The blade's steel is precious, a possession to cherish and care for, often passed between generations, a testament to time's inexorable march. Among these implements is the hunter's ally, in setting traps, a skill as much an art as weaponry itself. Using wire when available, or crafting snares with leading reeds and snapped branches, these crude contrivances depend less on precision engineering and more on intuitive understanding of nature and its patterns. There's an ingenious simplicity here, akin to drafting software code in our age, calculations yielding triumph unseen in elegant simplicity, a dance between man and the normalcy of prey. Though the mechanisms are archaic, the intent remains timelessly human. Carrying your wearied limbs homeward, you find a slight satisfaction in the humble resilience of these tools. They ground you in the simple mathematics of making do with less. They are intimate reminders that success isn't only drawn from the hunter's skill, but also from embracing one's limitations. The bow, the arrow, the knife, these represent the thin veil upon which medieval life balanced. Each strike could forge across the great divide between two meals, or another cold, hungry bedroll night. In an intriguing scholarly bend, historians still argue whether the medieval hub of technological development found its seat most productively within the castle's forge, or amidst the patient exploration of nature's bounty by those hands who wandered beyond walls. But whatever the source, the relationship was symbiotic, each tool a crafted prayer, echoing the call to eat, to thrive, to survive. Within their well-worn curves and honed edges lies a timeless exchange and agreement struck with Earth's own rhythms. As you stow the tools back in their bindings, reflecting light across an uncaring dusk, you find it easy to imagine a silent nod from one generation of hunters to the next. The tools may have been rudimentary and fallible, but they narrated humankind's continuous struggle to master the teeth and shadows of existence, and what's more human than trying, and trying again, under the indifferent gaze of a medieval sun? As you navigate through the dense foliage, another often invisible adversary lurks in the air: disease. The concept of health and hygiene is not something hunters in medieval times fully understood. In a world where the cause of illness remained an elusive mystery, Disease was an uninvited companion shadowing every step. It wasn't just the large beasts or the daily search for food that haunted hunters. It was also the microscopic foes, invisible yet more deadly than the fiercest prey. You imagine the world is rife with dangers. Your medieval counterparts couldn't even see those fevers and chills that grip out of nowhere, plagues that sweep through villages and decimate communities without warning or mercy. The lack of antibiotics or vaccines meant that a minor wound or scratch, easily treated in modern times, could fester and become life-threatening. Historians agree that life then was a precarious balance between raw resilience and the unforgiving severity of nature's smallest creations. The forest, with its wild and often untamed beauty, was both sanctuary and threat. Drinking from a river, for instance, might seem like a refreshing necessity, but lurking beneath its shimmering surface could be hordes of bacteria unknown to you. Such was the betrayer of hurried sips the spark for illness to ignite unchecked. There's an old irony here. What brought life also held the power to take it away. Rudimentary knowledge, passed down through generations, provided some line of defense. Hunters learned quickly which plants could soothe a stomachache or staunch a bleeding wound, turning to nature for its bountiful and sometimes surprisingly effective remedies. It's a distant echo of modern herbal medicine, minus the lab coats and scientific certifications. Tales of wise women and old men, knowing the wood's secrets, filled the spaces where learned physicians seldom tread, creating a world of whispered cures and wise anecdotes filled with as much folklore as truth. In these times, superstition and medicine walked hand in hand, blurring the lines between what was myth and what was medicinal. Charms or amulets could be found hanging around necks, talismans meant to ward off evil spirits, or the evil eye, a personified acknowledgement of nature's cruelty. Historians still argue whether these were more placebo than cure, but in such a world where little was understood, everything had its place in the battle for continued existence. Yet, living in these times also meant an ever-present hope. For each harsh winter survived, every summer bloom was a reward, an unspoken promise that life found its way in the smallest seeds of resilience. The cycle of seasons might bring disease, but it also carried healing warmth and the reassuring predictability of natural rebirth. It's tempting now to liken disease to the unpredictable force we mercifully cope with in today's world, our paranoia balanced by international scientific endeavor. Imagine a medieval sequel to Fantastic Germs and Where to Find Them, grappling with unseen foes, with wizards of herbal alchemy and a pinch of folklore to bet against reality's roll of the dice. And so, as you dwell among the smells of bark and soil, you appreciate the fragile fortune of wellness from day to day. There's no luxury of self-pity here, just acceptance and adaptation, and the innate knowledge that time travels one way and is a precious companion when lenient. Nature racks up her losses and gains with indifference, and in these solitudes of the wilderness, each breath remains a declaration of defiance to an uncaring world. Amidst the green sea of leaves, boughs arch overhead, cradling the unyielding lands that spawn in silence and carry you ceaselessly onward. Traveller in its mighty corridors, a solitary wanderer through the era-spanning quest, with invisible spectres concocted by fate browsing your every move. Each day lived is a gamble on good fortune, found in health's fickle embrace. Here, where past and present hover closer, intertwined with shadows, even a cough corresponds a chance gained or lost, a swayed dance with disease whose steps left over memories linger beyond every pandemic that has swept through the memories of life, still moving, yet stationary, all at once in humanity's grand, infallible narrative. The rustle underfoot as you navigate the forest signals more than just your footsteps through the fallen leaves. It carries the whispering promise of foraging, a skill that runs parallel with hunting, a necessary supplement to your daily quest for survival. As a medieval hunter, you have come to appreciate that to rely solely on the catch of the day is to invite hunger too freely. The forest's bounty, though capricious, offers hidden spoils for those with the eyes to see and the patience to seek. In the dim light filtering through the canopy above, you begin to notice the little markers, familiar nods from nature that speak of edible plants and roots nestled beneath the undergrowth. Your fingers, experienced and nimble, push aside the detritus of leaves to reveal the potential bounty. Actively gathered through the seasons, these finds can offer vital nutrients often lacking in the meat-heavy diet of the time. Indeed, your knowledge of flora is your ally here, a rich tapestry woven from years of tradition passed down from fellow wanderers of these woodlands. Elderberry and wild garlic, mushrooms and berries. Nature's own pantry nestled in verdant alcoves holds both feast and the occasional hidden peril. Mistakes are costly when identifying flora. A wrong choice can spell serious illness or worse, offering another reminder of the fine line between living off the land and being claimed by it. Foragers needed both wisdom and luck. Imagine the delight when coming across a patch of wild strawberries, ruby red and hidden beneath protective leaf sweets to lighten the burden of another grueling trek. The sudden abundance provides a day's worth of nourishment, the perfect counterbalance to the predator's persistence. It's akin to stumbling upon a free dessert buffet mid-run, nature's little restorative reward. The forest, however, shares its treasures reluctantly. Mushrooms sprouting beneath old logs, as delicate as they are varied, offer sustenance but demand a cautious approach. With so many resembling one another, it's often a guessing game that mere hours later could lead to relief or regret. Historians still argue about whether medieval foragers had profound botanical literacy, or if they played a constant game of trial and error, luckier than most at solving nature's jungle gym of puzzles. Beyond berries and roots, the opportunity to trap small game is woven into this foraging tapestry. Quieter than hunting, it blends into the fabric of your day hunter, becomes gatherer as you set snares in discreet openings, hoping that while you forage for plant life, a hare or squirrel might bumble upon a fate-unseen thread. It's a simple enterprise, almost welcoming in juxtaposition to the greater triumphs you wish upon the hunting gods. And there, beneath the boughs, is the simple joy of gathering herbs fresh, mint or thyme, that, although slight in substance, adds an undeniable flavor to both broths and meats. This harmonious blending of foraged finds elevates the modest fruits of your labors into a meal fit both for sustenance and enjoyment. You feel a connection to the earth that runs deeper than modern convenience. Groceries often allow a direct symbiosis with the natural world and its winding cycles. Visualizing these gathered treasures, akin to today's culinary foraging fads, gives humor its due celebration. Picture modern influencers venturing boldly into preserved parks, capturing foraged caterpillar fungi for their next clickbait masterpiece. The concert of irony plays well through rings of time, interspersed with learned wisdom and enjoyment. As the light fades, you return, laden with securely tied bundles of nature's gifts, a testament to the time well spent. The forest slowly relaxes into the blue of dusk, embracing its own mystery as gentle glows ignite herein, from fires built sometime past among grounded fellow seekers navigating the twilight path. You, returning with humble bounty, have lived to another sunrise marked by gratitude, a journey, where survival isn't born of battle, but a collective openness to unseen understandings. Such universal truths speak rocks and roots, that there is power in knowing what sustains you, that a hunter alone, or a wider community by proxy, thrives not merely on the heated drive of pursuit, but through quiet attentiveness, interwoven with possibilities. In the balance of every found and gathered meal, murmurs the quiet lesson whispered by our shared ancestry. Nature's bounty sustains more than the body. It nurtures perseverance, patience, and a reminder of life that endures through these ancient cycles. As the day settles into twilight and the forest's hues deepen, the presence, or absence, of companionship becomes palpably real. The life of a medieval hunter is predominantly solitary. Each day is a journey taken alone, but the rare occasions when you encounter a fellow traveler are both treasured and boggling. Companionship, though scarce, is a cherished reprieve from the silence that otherwise stretches unbroken through the hours under the forest canopy. In a world where community life centers around tightly knit villages, your role demands seclusion, splitting from the group to trace the invisible threads of survival through untouched terrains. Perhaps it is the echo of laughter traveling softly on the breeze, or stories exchanged by a crackling campfire late into the night, that linger in your mind as markers of the few but precious moments when paths have crossed, and lone huntsmen have met in mutual understanding. The forest occasionally affords you these shared moments, a chance encounter, a bond formed over mutual goals and hardships. Conversations interspersed with fire sparks Card games fashioned from leaf and twig, an exchange of tales learned on the road, enrich the otherwise solitary nature of the hunt. Don't forget a friendly wager over who might catch the bigger presmal humor between companions. Laughter in short supply, counterpoint to the rugged life that both demands and gifts such connections. There's a blend of shared humanity and rivalry here. Meetings are often brief, but deeply felt. Another hunter's silhouette by the dying light creates a shared awareness that you are not alone in this age-old endeavor. The camaraderie serves as a buffer against the mental toll that isolation can impose, offering respite in the form of shared stories, whispered secrets, and occasional help with supplies. Historians still discuss whether hunters went about their days as wandering loners, or if informal networks of kinship often existed, allowing information to be passed under leaf mosaics and guarding against the wolves' huddle. Such bonds, frail or resilient as they might be forged, enabled hunters to brush shoulders with folktales' marrow, often crafted vicariously through fireside retellings. There's a practicality to companionship in the forest beyond socialization. 2 pairs of eyes can spot danger where one might be blinkered. 4 hands can construct a raised lean. 2 against sudden rain more efficiently than 2. There's safety in numbers, albeit temperamental and sporadic, but when solitude is shattered for moments, there's a rare, gracious blessing imbued. The modern world reflects this in digital proximities fostered across endless devices, where communities form around shared interests, despite physical barriers. But in medieval times, connection often survived, not through convenience, but through sheer necessity and effort. Imagine banding together with strangers, after only a few exchanges, with trust built not on shared history, but shared circumstance. Even the wilderness, often viewed as a place of isolation, occasionally succumbs to the warmth of humanity. Relationships forged in such spaces are not bound by social hierarchy, but by a shared understanding of the land and its trials. A friendly word, a shared meal, a moment's laughter or solemn silence. All these fleeting instances extend the hand of companionship where there might otherwise be none. When the forest deepens into shadows and evening draws its blanket close, the memory of companionship, however, fleeting warms and shields like an embrace. As the embers of a fire flicker and die, you find solace in the realization that even in the harshest wilderness, you've shared momentary human light in the sprawling dim. It is these connections, magnetic to the needs of honesty, that sustain the heart when its emptiness shudders beneath visible stars. And so, as you nestle into another dusk surrounded by whispering leaves and the ancient music of the woods, the echo of companionship remains a gentle, comforter, simple, quiet beacon for body and heart alike, understanding sideways glances that transcend solitary journeys and transform them into a shared Odysseia-woven thread in the vast human tapestry. These are the intangible harvests, bestowing strength through silent communion carried among the trees. As the days morph into weeks, and the tranquil yet haunting lullabies of the forest continue to envelop you, the deeper mental toll of social isolation becomes something you can't simply ignore. In medieval times, the life of a hunter often meant long stretches of solitude, with only the whispers of the forest and the sporadic calls of wildlife for company. Initially, solitude may be a welcomed escape from the crowded constraints of village life, but over time, it can weigh heavily on the mind and spirit. The isolation stretches onward, unbroken by the casual conversations or warm laughter that infuse human lives with a sense of belonging. The allure of solitude can quickly give way to a quiet loneliness, one that fills each space between trees and casts long, introspective shadows on your path. Your own thoughts become both companion and rival, sometimes bringing solace, and other times twisting and turning until they spiral into the depths of introspection. Within this solitude, the woods can become both scene and narrative, an external reflection of a hunter's internal states. Here, even the rustle of leaves or the distant cawing of a raven punctuates the silence, serving to illuminate just how alone you really are. In this context, solitude becomes a double-edged sword, a chance for personal reflection, but also a mirror that can sometimes show too much of the frayed edges of isolation. It's not just about physical isolation, but a detachment from communal rituals and routines. without the everyday exchanges that reinforce social ties be it bargaining at the market, sharing a tankard of ale, or attending a village gathering, there's a missing layer of human interaction upon which emotional and mental resilience is scaffolded. There's no one to ground you in the realities of the world outside your own thoughts, an experience once likened to the long marches through unending fog, where loss of direction is a constant peril. Historians still debate what mark this kind of isolation left on the medieval hunter's psyche, whether it fostered steely independence or led to melancholy and despair. Likely, it varied as broadly as humanity itself. Artists have driven narrative odes toward it, considering the solitary figure in the forest as both brave and tragic, a hero enduring sleepless vigils against nature's ambivalence. There's a wry humor in imagining a medieval version of social media, a lifeline of interaction and engagement, connecting hunters across vast woodlands, posting updates of today's uneventful watch, along with a candid snapshot of a spiderweb glistening in the dew. But truthfully, there's only the present reality connection made difficult when ancient paths fail to cross and voices fade upon the breeze. The forest, for all its beauty and bounty, has a certain unyielding indifference. It doesn't recognize loneliness, nor care for human tribulations. It simply exists, a world unto itself, in which you are one of many transitory guests. It offers silence and sounds, yet not comfort in the way that a friend's simple presence might. Each crackling footstep over untouched leaves resonates louder when there's no one to muffle its clarity. Amidst the weight of solitude, though, there is a certain resilience that anchors the soul. Those who embraced such isolation perhaps cultivated a deeper patience, a keener intuition, and an unwavering adaptability, gifts of character that demand solitude's price, yet reward it all the same. It's a stubborn tether, binding you to nature and ultimately to yourself, in a loop closing in self-reflection and careful contemplation. As the firelight sputters against the encroaching dark, you reconcile with the world within and without, finding a tenuous balance. You whisper a story aloud, born from memory's collection of faded moments, each line drawn from past companions or lessons hard-won, reassurance that you are not alone in this after all. For even in isolation, the echo of connection lingers, something as fragile yet indomitable as the night breeze caressing over the forest floor. Amid this stillness, nature's vast solitude offers you space to reacquaint with yourself, not a journey taken lightly, nor one easily abandoned, and in this solitude you find a breath of serenity. Even today, as you wander further, the solitude does not feel absolute, for within the forest's silence sings its oldest ballad, that we are all, in some way, moving under the same sky, threading the same undergrowth tapestry from those primeval roots. As you walk through the forest, surrounded by nature's symphony and the quiet shadows of solitude, you can't help but think about the various perceptions of hunters throughout history. Tales often paint them as heroic figures, wielding bows and arrows with unmatched skill, living in harmony with the woods. But the myths and realities of a medieval hunter's life frequently diverge, creating a web of stories that veer from truth, sometimes capturing the imagination while missing the essence of their daily struggles. The romanticized view of a medieval hunter seen as a noble and adventurous provideress, an image often wrapped in the cloak of legends and folklore. Songs and stories, passed down through generations, depict hunters as valiant figures, braving the dangers of the wild, outwitting cunning beasts, and returning home triumphant with the spoils of a successful hunt. Tales of cunning foxes and brave woodsmen are shared by fireside. There's a narrative perpetuated in everything from merry gatherings to children's bedtime stories. This perception, however, glosses over the gritty, unyielding reality of the life they led. Instead of an adventurous romp through the forest, each day for a hunter began and ended with survival, in mind-filled with cold mornings, unseen dangers, and the relentless effort required to secure each meal. Time was their taskmaster, with every waking hour marked by the pursuit of elusive prey and the need to outsmart both beast and nature. While myths elevate the hunter to legend, it is the mundane and the grueling that invited exhaustion to every nightfall, the toll of life, unmatched by balladry or tall tales. The truth involves mud-splattered tunics, blisters forming despite handmade leather boots, and a scantiness in rations that offers little echo of victory. Perhaps you smirk at the thought of transforming this gritty life into a medieval reality show where the unscripted trials and triumphs of daily hunting unfold before an audience tuned in for adventure, impressed by resilience, less forgiving of stumbles. Imagine a panel of jesters and scribes, judges of natural prowess and wit. These myths are also threads of societal perception, reflecting a division of classes. In many rural peasant villages, the hunter might hold a position of admiration, a respected provider. Yet in the eyes of the nobility, hunters sometimes assumed the role of poacher thieves trespassing on royal land, threatening the king's game, met with derision or outright hostility. It was a tangled identity, often painted by who held the paintbrush, each stroke an interpretation based on benefit or loss to the artist. Historians still debate the fairness of these perceptions, whether the tales we choose to retell reflect envy or emulation, or if they obscure the intricate feats of endurance embodied by a hunter in medieval times. The inconsistencies reveal both the strength and flexibility of human storytelling, where narratives flex to accommodate expectation rather than reality. For you, walking along well-worn paths in any age, it's these juxtaposed images that juxtapose the tapestry of thought, a reminder of the human proclivity to weave myth and legend in place of hard truths. In those moments of conjecture, when left alone beneath the pines, you ponder on the reality behind symbolic metaphors, the true blend of courage, skill, and luck that drives tales of grandeur, albeit behind the screen of raw realism. So, as the shadows shift around you, you're left reflecting on the delicate dance of reputation, myth, and realism intertwined throughout history's annals. Perceptions are not fixed but malleable, crafted from culture, context, and the echoes of those who have walked the land before. This contemplation becomes a gentle reminder, an echo that resonates across time, reminding you that every stride and every breathe becomes part of the ever-evolving mythos through which survival is not merely a fact but a story retold with each telling or countenance, eternally reinvented beneath the sky's wide expanse. As you navigate the woodland trails, weaving between paths both known and obscure, the presence of a deeper, invisible force shadows your journey. This force is not the rustling wind or the silent flight of an owl overhead, but the theological oversight woven into the fabric of your life, the church. In medieval times, religion permeated nearly every aspect of existence, and for hunters, it acted as both moral compass and restrictive shackle. The church was an omnipresent entity, with its influence stretching into the farthest reaches of the forest. It dictated not only societal norms and values, but also imparted judgment over the morality of one's personal pursuits. In a culture where subsistence often clashed with spiritual tenets, a hunter's task carried ethical and theological weight, an ever-watchful presence, as embedded in daily life as the dagger at your side. As a medieval hunter, your life was marked by the duality of mortal needs against spiritual salvation. While the rapid pursuit of prey and filling one's larder was undeniably a matter of earthly necessity, the act sometimes stood at odds with religious doctrine. The church often advocated for the stewarding of nature and denounced excessive hunting, promoting a moral obligation to conserve God's creations. Hunters, therefore, walked a tightrope between their role as providers and the church's ideals of restraint and reverence toward all living things. Yet, these ideals were flexible enough to accommodate the realities of survival. After all, the balance between providing for one's family and adhering to religious doctrine was often a careful negotiation. There was, too, counsel sought through humble prayers, murmured in the depths of night, bundled in a forest clearing swallowed by shadows, where the two paths Mergione knelt upon in honest supplication. In some instances, the church provided support for hunters, lending spiritual encouragement, prayers of protection, or even blessings before a significant hunt. Yet there were also instances where the church's doctrine lay heavily upon a hunter's conscience, portraying the act of taking life as sinful, casting hunters as a reminder of humanity's fallen state post-Eden. Historians still argue over the latitude of the church's direct involvement, an ideological puzzle pieced together from sermons and relics of sentiment woven between psalms. Imagine today, if the church and state produced Instagram collabs, they might warn against overindulgence in hunting, with ancient hand-drawn memes appearing on medieval parchment, shared at the local community meetup beneath the boughs of gossip trees. It's the delicate interplay of values finding resonance even centuries away, where only technology updates, but the message holds its stately reverberation. Despite potential doctrinal tensions, rituals within the forest acknowledge the spirituality deeply intertwined with daily survival. Sunlight peeking through the morning mist, snowflakes gathering around conifer branches in gloved quiet. Such beauty inspired reflections on creation and existence, provoking a reverence for the earth and the unseen cycles churning underfoot. While the church cast its stabilizing net over medieval society, it did not entirely stifle the individual's connection to the spiritual within the natural realm. Prayers offered amidst shaded glens or beside rushing streams promised a synthesis of the earthly and divine, invoking guardian angels to bless your aim or guide your steps unseen across uncertain terrain. As your day edges onward, and the forest transitions into twilight's cloak, the thoughts scatter like seeds caught in the wind, reminder that faith could act as shelter, guidance amidst the perpetual twilight of life's trials. In this blend of nature and the divine, where every rustle and call echoes with ethereal whispers, the integrity of faith withstands the tests of solitude and sustenance, becoming an enduring thread through the patchwork tapestry of a medieval hunter's journey. The quiet crunch of leaves underfoot forms a rhythmic backdrop as you navigate the forest, where the encompassing serenity belies the truth. A minefield of legal restrictions governs every step. Wildlife laws in medieval times serve as thorns along a hunter's path, confining and constricting their movements through the woods and plains, threatening livelihoods with the weight of imposed authority. As you tread through the undergrowth, these laws shape the land you traverse, invisible lines dictating who may hunt, when, and what game shall rightfully fall under their pursuit. Centuries ago, land was a patchwork of ownership and rights, a quilt stitched with sovereign claims and noble decrees, bestowing or withholding privileges in tight correlation with social rank. Thus, your identity as a hunter often intertwines with these laws, like vines woven so deeply into the fabric of society that disentangling yourself might well prove folly. Noble game laws forbade hunting on lands owned by lords and kings, unless explicit permission was granted, a tactic intended to conserve prized animals like boar and deer for aristocratic sport and feasts. Historians still argue whether these laws stemmed from genuine conservation efforts or the nobles' love for the chase, but one thing remains clear. They placed considerable stress on those who relied on hunting for survival. For common hunters, navigating these laws required not only skill with the bow, but also cunning in matters of discretion and stealth. Of course, the consequences for being caught poaching were serious: fines, imprisonment, or even corporal punishment. It meant that your days were not just occupied with the hunt itself, but also heightened the stakes of staying one step ahead of gamekeepers and forest wardens, a game of cat and mouse between survival and legality. There's a wry modern humour in the idea of medieval forest rangers patrolling on horseback, issuing citations for illegal hunting gore, perhaps a medieval law and order episode, where gamekeepers band together, solving the mystery of poached venison with gritty tenets and solemn timbers. A surprising number of commoners found themselves inadvertently entangled with these laws, drawn by the necessity of supplementing meagre incomes or food stores. For many, necessity invoked disobedience, encouraging clandestine hunts by moonlight or within shadow-thick groves, places where the treetop canopies lent refuge from glaring ISA witnesses. As you contemplate these legal constraints, you appreciate that there were spaces carved out by necessity, circumventing restrictions as best as the times allowed. Some historians believe that certain officials, understanding the inherent hardship faced by hunters, turned a blind eye, extending the common courtesy of unwritten law, an ancient construct akin to the act of receiving winks of grace from modern-day traffic wardens over minor infractions. Despite the tightened noose, whispers of rebellion sweetened the air where villagers clung to the notions of common land, the legacy of ancient rights that once allowed communities to hunt on shared expanses as custom decreed. These residual freedoms, modest but profoundly symbolic, acted as both physical and metaphysical resistance, threads of defiance against the tightening grip of centralized power and privately owned territories. Through it all, the act of hunting itself became a silent protest, a declaration of autonomy for those tethered by class, between foraging bowmen and noble hawks narratives, spiraling in secret among rustling winds and secretive branches. In such subtleties, hunters tapped into a deeper connection with the forest, asserting agency against not just nature's unpredictability, but the societal structures that sought to dictate survival. As the familiar glow of sunset saturates the horizon, casting its fading light upon your footsteps, you marvel at the resilience of those who traversed these trails long before they, who balanced necessity with prescriptions, finding pathways amid impositions and tiptoeing destiny's divided line. Each step resonates with echoes of resistance and adaptability, impressing upon you that in an ever-complex world, ingenuity often threads itself through life's labyrinths within the unyielding whispers of distant, leaf-strewn trails. The air is filled with the crisp, intoxicating scent of freshly fallen leaves as you move through the ancient woodland. The day's challenges have not been light, yet there is a particular buoyancy to your step. The harvest is with you, a hard-won triumph over nature's reluctance to yield its bounty. For a medieval hunter, the feast that follows a successful hunt is more than just a moment of respite, stands as a vivid testament to survival, providing rewards both tangible and ephemeral. Back in the village, or even around a small forest clearing, preparations are made for the feast. A successful hunt brings a flurry of activity, akin to a contemporary celebration marked by the same eager anticipation. The fire crackles enthusiastically, its warmth a welcoming embrace against the chill that creeps in with the falling sun. It casts a flickering glow that dances across the faces of those gathered, resonating with an ancient sense of community and shared purpose. The feast becomes an unspoken ritual, a moment where the harshness of daily life gives way to the warmth of human connection, coming together of kin and community. In this gathering, where provisions are placed on simple wooden tables or shared between hungry hands, there's laughter, stories, and the rare pleasure of a full belly. Smells of roasting meat blend with the earthy aroma of herbs and spices foraged from the wild, and suddenly, survival is not just struggle but celebration. This momentary respite is not merely one of bodily nourishment, but a feast of the soul. As you sit among friends, family, and fellow inhabitants of this medieval odyssey, the world shrinks down to the ring of firelight, its shadows warding off the uncertainties that lie beyond. It is during these times that tales are spun some of the heroic conquests of the day, others of fantastical legends that ride the warm currents of imagination, believing beyond doubt that every tale carved by the hunt holds truth as fierce as reality itself. Herein lies the invisible force that whispers of unity and shared destiny. Although the hunter often roams alone, the feast is a vivid reminder that you never truly hunt in isolation. Every step taken in the forest, each trail followed, leads back to this place, binding individual endeavor within collective celebration. It is a heart-palpitating echo from the past, reassuring every hunter that they stand at the nexus of a communal web, supported by the vibrations of shared kinship. Historians still argue whether the significance of these feasting rituals owed more to simple necessity or profound symbolism. Did they serve primarily to replenish the physical or to reaffirm social bonds in contexts where life's seam was perpetually unraveling? In truth, it was likely a dance between the two, a constant symbiosis of need and celebration within the tender weight of life's precarious balance. In reflecting upon the pressure of catching enough for the feast, there's a touch of humor in comparing to modern-day holiday feasts, complete with half-finished arguments, flirtations with medieval family feuds, or the timeless jest of whose roast brought tears of culinary joy. Imagine a medieval Twitter feed filled with glowing reviews of Byron's best boar or Toasting Aldrich, master of mead. As the evening stretches and yawns into the night, bellies are laden and spirits are lifted. The feel of divine satisfaction settles like a blanket under the autumn sky. Surrounded by those with whom you share this earth-tethered journey, the feast serves as both culmination and genesis, a transitory escape from the tensions of existence, rooting you deeper into nature's grand design. Eventually, the convivial spaces fade into shadows, All around you the whispers of day's end spiral up with the smoke of the dying fire. The feast may conclude, but its essence lingers, a reminder that even amidst the challenges of a medieval hunter's life, moments of joy and camaraderie prevail. They are both the score and beat upon which life graciously plays, in harmonious measure, with heart's rhythm, that uniting cadence propelling you toward another dawn, a tapestry where survival remains an art all its own. As the horizon begins to blur and the embers of the recent feast still glow dimly in your memory, you feel the weight of something more than the dwindling fira, responsibility that cloaks each action and decision as heavily as the leather tunic you wear. For a medieval hunter, the title of provider was not just an occupation, but a defining essence, intricately woven into the very fabric of identity, family, and community structure. You are not merely a solitary figure in the forest. You are a thread in the larger weave of survival and sustenance that binds your community together. In this world that leans heavily on self-reliance, your ability to hunt directly correlates with the welfare of those who rely on you. This isn't just within your immediate family, but extends through village ties, where the fruits of your labor represent a compromise against scarcity, a promise of nourishment that eases the ever-looming specter of hunger. As such, the pressures of providing are woven tightly into the overarching narrative of life's perpetual balance between taking from the wilderness and giving to your people, ensuring that your contribution solidifies your place within this ecosystem of human and nature. The dependence placed upon you is not just a burden, but a profound trust and exchange, written in the silent agreements that pulse beneath society's surface. Each catch is a pact fulfilled, an unspoken contract between you and the expectant faces that await your return. It's also a latent promise of coming feasts, celebrations of life, and emblematic of shared fortunes, testimony to the communal essence girding the desolate spaces life has carved. Returning with plentiful game is met with both relief and pride. Children who tumble across village lanes see you as both hero and necessity. In those instances, respect accrues through age-old rites, your presence assuring safety and warmth, even amid scarcity. And yet, there's a gentle irony contemplating a medieval boy band with themes of hunter's heartthrobs, crooning hunter, themed ballads to swooning, fans recalling the shared dream of sustaining and nurturing hard-won status within the rend community's heart. Historians continue to debate whether such responsibilities as sole provider fueled communal harmony, or, conversely, tension and division within the societal framework. Interdependence was not merely conceptual, but encapsulated survival's fervent vows, from the fertile hearth awaiting hearthstones to the vessel brimming with labor's distillate, each bound by the flexibility inherent in needs fulfillment. And therein lies a subtle balance, a tethering of one's skill against the community's reliance. Just as nature reserves the right to withhold, so does life remind that sometimes bounty avoids worried hands, leaving only transient shadows to gather at erstwhile festive tables. In the void left by missed opportunities and empty traps, villagers lean closer, carrying the collective burden with shared patience sown from perseverance, resilience's indomitable seamstresses. In these catches and failures, every hunter embarks on journeys, layered with complexities, a tapestry, infused with instinctual kinship and nuanced accountability. And this unpredictable dance with the ecosystem reflects not autonomy, but collective responsibility written across invisible boundaries. It is both a solace and a bind, weaving communal interrelations where nature provides a shared arbiter beyond which neither pride nor power holds final say. As the stars glimmer above, their twinkle echoing ancient shepherd's poetic watch, you find solace in the quiet knowledge, whispered by generations, that life, though fragmented by each dawn's sharp divisions, reconciles in circular companionship and eternal reverie of being both hunted and hunter amidst cosmic windswept realms. Here, beneath celestial arcs, your path is traced alongside the spirits, interconnected yet autonomous, the songs of hunters past whispering softly in your ears. Moreover, in the dim glow of a dawning day, you feel not only the weight of a single burden, but the buoyancy of shared resilience, stretched across familiar pathways, grounding each breath with chords unbroken by time's passing nor hardship's insistent tick. In this cyclical restoration, where forest and family merge within fleeting cycles, moments surface marked by connection against all odds, affirming, ever more profoundly, the hunter's tale in the epic interlace of choosing life over names lost to the winds. As dawn whispers its gentle light across the forest floor, the reality of economic survival begins to take shape in the contours of your thoughts. In the medieval world, where coin and barter marked the lines of necessity and abundance, hunters occupied a unique niche within this intricate web. Through skill, intuition, and a touch of good fortune, you learn not only to hunt for sustenance, but also to navigate the marketplace survival strategy, as critical as any bow's taut string or arrow's sharp tip. In a society where every individual contributes their unique talents to the community's welfare, hunting assumes a dual purpose. Beyond immediate sustenance, it serves as currency, a barter of flesh and fur, in exchange for goods essential to daily life. The hides from a successful hunt might be traded for woven cloth, the antlers for tools, or the meat itself for grains grown under a careful watch. This exchange is not one of simple economics, but carries the weight of personal and communal provision, a delicate dance between needs and resources that weaves your life into the broader fabric of societal interdependence. Market days become a central feature of this economic livelihood. You step off forest trails into cobblestone streets, bustling with the vibrant energy of trade, where goods are displayed in vibrant array and merchants hawk their wares with enthusiastic calls. Here, hunters like you barter with farmers, merchants, and blacksmiths, each exchange a performance of negotiation, where every transaction becomes both physical and symbolic. Exchanging venison or rabbit for essentials might bring you a few coins, or, more importantly, the vital tools that can be repaired or replaced only through the efforts of another's trade. These market interactions create a tapestry of relationships binding individuals across professions, each trade serving communal resilience in a world where self-sufficiency is not just impossible, but unimaginable. Historians still argue over whether medieval economies emphasized more direct barter or currency transactions. Yet the consensus rests on an economy that teems with local exchanges, sometimes rich, sometimes poor in goods, but always vibrant with unspoken arrangements made between barterer and bartered. Imagine, if you will, the scene of today's bustling farmers' market, eternally vivid not with smartphone-toting influencers and organic kale, but with the earthy allure of freshly caught fish and woven baskets filled to the brim with seasonal abundance. In such a place, you move seamlessly among the crowd, occasionally overhearing escapades of neighbors' endeavors, enviously gazing upon fellow hunters' spoils hung upon wooden racks. Underlying the notion of barter is the tacit understanding and trust between trading partners. A sense of fairness and mutual benefit threads these interactions, sustaining the concept that equality and mercy thrive even when nature or circumstances seem barren. The success of one's trade often hinges upon knowing who to trust, whose praises might be sung, gentler connections tendered into strands, anchoring continuity across seasons' elapses. And yet, such relationships are not entirely devoid of competition. There exists a delicate arbitration, wherein wise judgments dictate whether to maintain harmony within deeply rooted alliances or press harder against rivals by cultivating unique skills, rare items, or more coveted finds. Each hunter's prize reflects both their prowess and fortune, with every offered trade simultaneously a measure of self-worth and communal integration, reminiscent of modern-day corporate whispers and strategic networking. By dusk, as the sun retreats beyond the horizon, casting elongated shadows upon village greens and corners, you return to familiar paths. The distant sound of clinking coins, or the muted rustle of traded goods, conducted echoes memories through an enduring tradition of wealth, unmistakably humble, yet mighty within its context, transcending medieval marketplace sensibilities. As you locate your resting spot among the enveloping forest trails, twilight's gentle promise veiling in its grasp, you embrace the rhythm of medieval trade. Each footstep forwards nestles into spaces unexplored, creating transitions against whimsical seasons' echoes, while perpetual foreshadows lace the world illuminated by narratives woven into existence through mutuality and exchange. In that intrepid dialogue between hunter's offer and merchant's need, life's contours continue to shape ahead, mindful of both hardship and fortune's truest embrace. Through the rustling leaves and dappled sunlight, the forest seems to breathe with a life of its own. Yet, as you trek deeper into the woods, part of you remains acutely aware that it is not just the landscape that you are contending with, it is also the silent challenge posed by others like you. Rivalries among hunters are as old as the craft itself, born from necessity and sharpened by the exigencies of survival. The competition is not simply a matter of skill, it is an unspoken right that tests both mettle and spirit in the relentless pursuit of game. In medieval times, the forest is not merely a communal resource, but an arena where hunters pit their wits and instincts against the backdrop of nature's whims. Each trek through the underbrush is viewed not just as an expedition for food, but also as a contest of sorts, a silent, mutual understanding among those who ply the same trade. As paths cross, there is both camaraderie and rivalry, a recognition of your peers as both allies and competitors in the shared struggle for sustenance. The encounters with fellow hunters are charged with nuances of mutual respect and unspoken competition. There is a bond forged in the shared experience of hardships and triumphs, yet this is tempered by the awareness of one's own livelihood, potentially tipping at the edge of another's success. Conversations conducted in the forest's dim light, words laced with casualness atop an underpinning of vigilance, intertwine laughter with the critical subtext, where today's jest might pivot on the knife edge of tomorrow's pursuit. As you intersect trails, there's a brief flicker of acknowledgement, a nod, a raised hand, a shared glance that conveys volumes about the unyielding hush bounded by your surroundings. The measure of one's success is quietly noted, be it the weighted haul over a shoulder or the lean look of one whose luck has not favored their exertions. It's a tapestry that stitches humility across threads of skill and challenge, the hunter's testament to inherent perseverance. The heart of these rivalries lies not just in the competition for the day's catch, but also in the claim to skills passed through generations. Stories whisper in the wind of ancestral feats, enhancing personal lore with communal pride, wherein legends bustle among far-flung kin, casting their inheritance as both guides and haunting shadows to ongoing endeavors. Historians continue to debate the intensity and nature of these rivalries, whether hunters maintained lifelong adversarial relationships or if these contests served as rites of passage within a broader community framework, akin to youthful scrimmages on village greens. It invokes thoughts of modern-day sport with its brisk rivalries, yet beneath the grins and taunts lays respect, layered with acknowledgement of another's gifts. Even humour finds a place amidst such tensions, a jest about who might attract the most game or teasing comparisons of each other's skills at the group gatherings. Imagine a medieval stand-up routine, delivered with exaggerated tales and sly grins, where favoured hunters rib each other mercilessly beneath communal banquet glows. Despite the tension and challenges these rivalries entail, they ultimately serve to hone the skills of those who partake in their subtle dance. With every encounter, you refine your craft, learning from others just as they learn from you. The forest becomes not only a solitary journey, but a shared classroom where lessons are mutual, though often pointed in their specificity. You carry these experiences with you as you weave through the forest, cradling both the competitive edge and the humility that rivalry has nurtured within. Eventually, when the competition wanes and the afternoons fade, there are moments when you can appreciate not just the spoils of your individual endeavors, but the shared spirit, the forged fortitude that rises among those you once called rivals. As shadows lengthen around you and the language of the forest grows hushed with twilight's command, you continue forward amid friendly rivalry and occasional laughter. Beneath the canopy of leaves lies the unbroken thread of determination that weaves through every path you walk, each rivalry cemented within the tapestry of life's hallowed tale, eternally marked by the accumulation of shared tales and the resilience dwelling therein. Emerging from the dense thicket, beads of sweat mixing with the forest's energy as it holds its breath under the sun's gaze, you enter an open clearing. Here, the subtle complexities of the medieval hunter's existence within a nuanced social hierarchy come into sharper focus. The presence of the nobility casts a sweeping, often shadowy influence over the lander network of power and privilege that entertains an intricate relationship with those who roam the woods. The nobles, with their vast estates and hunting grounds, define the boundaries of your world, not just geographically, but also in terms of privilege and access. Towns and villages lie nestled like tucked-in vassals around these sprawling tracts, each parcel of land, a testament to the nobility's dominion, shaping both your path as a hunter and the limitations within which you must operate. The forest echoes with the dual sirens of favor and resentment, a world governed as much by nature as by decree. For some hunters, the noble's presence presents an opportunity, the chance to curry favor, secure patronage, or even participate in the more formalized, grandly orchestrated hunts staged by the lords and ladies of the realm. These grand, gilded affairs, filled with pageantry and spectacle, stand apart from the harsh necessities of your daily existence. Yet, in the courtly gaze, there lies the potential for favor or wealth, a way to lift oneself from the relentless survival push driven by personal resilience. The courtly hunts are punctuated by the resonant call of hunting horns and the stamp of noble steeds, a theatre where hunters may be summoned as guides, valued for their knowledge of the land, the hidden paths, and animal patterns. Here, they walk a delicate line, helpers and players in a nobleman's game, yet expected to yield with deference, to understand implicitly where societal lines are drawn. Historians have long pondered whether these affiliations extended the livelihood of common hunters or conscripted their pursuits into a society-driven performance. Did nobles see them as valued allies or unfortunate subjects over the lens of their own gamescapes? The truth likely resides in mirroring reflection, contingent on goodwill perched amongst tension's precariousness. For many hunters, an invitation to join noble hunts may translate into tangible rewards: coin, food, even clothing that exceeds in quality from what their daily toil could secure. If fortune smiles, lasting alliances could be formed, extending influence far beyond solitary forays into the forest, binding them instead within the whimsical courtly patterns. But for those not in the orbit of such favor, relationships with the nobility could be difficult. Territory that you tread cautiously one season becomes marked decisively as royal preserve the next, turning privilege into an untouchable tapestry that leaves you vulnerable to the whims of guarded restrictions. Herein lies the constant negotiation of autonomy, maintaining respect for the noble's dominion while protecting your own rights and survival within the shifting lines of power. There's a jaded sort of humor that comes to mind. Imagine a noble scrolling through realms like updating digital property listings or demanding the next super-seasonal hunt goose chase video on today's streaming service. A sharp wit dances behind cross-cultural echoes, where influence yet lingers in courtly presence beyond technology's eager grasp. Ultimately, the dynamics between hunters and nobles were as complex as the woods themselves, entwined with mutual dependence, yet equally able to diverge abruptly into contention. This elaborate ballet of balance rests on unspoken agreements, traditional rights broken occasionally by the curious need for a new social era. Now, as dusk settles around you, the forest leaves fall into gentle whispers and shadows stretch like languid fingers across the land. You ponder the intricacies that emerge from time spent deciphering the unwritten rules dictated by roving courtly shadows, alongside the familiar peace of solitude. Though framed by societal nuances, alas never static, your journey remains your own personal orbit that deftly straddles moments of unity, conflict, and the ever-persistent strive for harmony beneath the eaves of power, privilege, and old unyielding trees. As the seasons turn, bringing with them both the bite of winter's chill and the gentle warmth of spring, you soon come to understand the profound influence they have on your life as a medieval hunter. Each season carries with it unique challenges and opportunities, a cycle that dictates your strategies and rhythms in the ever-evolving dance with nature. This is an unchanging natural narrative, where survival hinges on your ability to adapt and anticipate the ever-shifting patterns laid down by the elements. In the dead of winter, the forest becomes a stark, silent monument to endurance. Snow blankets the ground, muffling sound and slowing both your movements and those of your prey. The chill seeps through even the thickest of furs, forcing you to conserve energy and carefully choose each step. Tracks are often obscured by fresh snow, and the animals you seek are far scarcer, driven into their dens by the same cold that burdens your every exhalation. Yet the stillness also provides moments of startling clarity. The sheer expanse of white punctuated occasionally by a glimpse of form there, a deer, gently grazing beneath skeletal trees. The arrival of spring heralds a time of renewal, where the forest stirs from its frozen slumber with the sounds of new life. Bubbling brooks and birdsong accompany your every step, a gentle reminder that the world is once again teeming with vitality. Your senses are on high alert, as the promise of plentiful game is tempered by the challenges of mud and swollen rivers. It's a time of awakening, not just for the land, but for you as well. Each venture into the forest, a celebration of the renewed opportunities that lie hidden among the leaves and flowers. Summer's warmth ushers in a period of abundance, where the forest offers its bountiful gifts in rich profusion. Animal tracks are more readily found, and your skills are tested against the evasive nature of prey that is as alert as you are. The long days allow for extended hunts, but the heat can be a formidable adversary, requiring you to balance exertion with the need to stay hydrated and cool. It's a time when the stakes feel less dire, yet the need to plan ahead for the harsher months imposes an underlying urgency to every encounter. Autumn, with its golden leaves and crisp air, signals a time of preparation. It's the hunter's realm, as animals fatten themselves in anticipation of the coming cold, and both you and the forest seem to move with a sense of impending closure. Hunts are often fruitful, and the need to gather and store for the winter dominates your mind. The chill in the air brings a sharpness to your senses, enhancing the exhilaration of each pursuit and serving as a reminder of the beauty that curls through life's transitory phases. Historians debate whether medieval hunters operated with an instinctive understanding of ecology or if their adaptability was purely survival-driven. Perhaps, like today, a blend of experience and necessity dictated their actions, creating an environmental awareness that mirrored nature's own ebb and flow. There's a humor in contemplating how one might construct a medieval social media cycle based on the season's myriad of posts, highlighting the challenges of each, from winter's chill team, selfies on ice, to summer's heatwave heroes, hashtagging tales of endurance under the blazing sun. Yet, through the changing seasons, a consistent core remains. Each one brings its own weave of hardship and wonder, achieved and documented in the journal of experience that is your mind. You're constantly shifting, learning, and evolving, drawing lessons from the timeless classroom of nature and integrating them into your very being. As you step along the path, where fallen leaves crunch beneath your feet, you embrace the cyclic nature of seasons with renewed understanding. Each one, with its distinct character and trials, smooths the rough edges of solitude and polishes the silent wisdom that lights your survival. Hunters dance with nature's seasons not as adversaries, but as partners in the eternal ballet of existence, negotiating where intention meets instinct and resilience intertwines with nature's harmonious cadence. While the sky shifts colors to entertain shadow's growth among the groves, you walk ever onward, synchronized with the symphonic waltz afforded by the land's rotational palette, life and death, courage and caution threaded upon seasonal frameworks yielding presence to subsist with time-spun grace. As you wander through the ancient corridors of the forest, where every rustle of leaves seems to carry a story on its wings, you can't help but consider how legends and fables have immortalized hunters in the tapestry of cultural memory. Throughout medieval times, hunters have been cast as figures of mystery, valor, and sometimes mischief, woven into the rich lore that endures beyond concrete texts and into the oral traditions that resonate through ages. In these stories lie fantastical challenges, tales of hunters who face mythical beasts, dragons, whose scales shimmer in the twilight, or creatures born of elder magic lurking in murky ponds. Such narratives elevate the act of hunting from mere survival to epic quests, where the forest itself becomes an enchanted glossary containing all of life's true wonderment and cryptic answers. These stories, whether set in the distant forest or upon the lips of bardic song, speak to an adventure-seeking courage akin to that found in today's cinematic universes. Among these legends, Robin Hood famously strides into Viewa symbolic shadow, stretching across generations, representing the ideal heroic outlaw who robs the rich to feed the poor. His band of merry men operates among Nottingham's hypothetical green canopy, embodying communal ideals against oppressive forces, celebrated for their defiance as much as their archery. The story casts hunters in roles beyond mere providers, reimagining them as liberators, moral arbiters, and champions of justice, a timeless fable that dances within society's subconscious. Yet the folklore does not stop with heroes alone. Hunters become the lifted canvas for more curious tales. Stories of the wild hunt with celestial ranges as stage, an eerie host led by phantom riders driving ghostly prey across darkened skies, believed by some to be harbingers or omens threading between worlds. Here, hunters transform into mythic commentators upon life's unknown vistas, voyaging over worlds unseen throughout shadowy narratives. Historians often speculate about the genesis of these legends, whether they grew from genuine historical events or were born purely from the imaginations of story weavers seeking to capture the vibrant essence of medieval life in genuine, fantastical prose. It's likely that both grains of truth have intertwined as tendrils in human creativity's vine, propagated and retold across time, each recounting, growing and shadowing old margins evermore. In these woven stories lies humour too, the notion of a medieval storytime gathering, where villagers might gasp at the mention of unseen monsters or relieve laughter's load at jest-filled tales of hapless hunts gone awry. Imagine the medieval equivalent of today's blockbuster cinema, filling fledgling amphitheatres with awe and eager whispers, each hunter's legend becoming larger than life with every retelling. Part of the hunter's allure lies in their legendary tangibility, human carved from the vast, unyielding nature, who trods not only the earth's surface, but tempts into spheres woven by ancestral memory. As you walk these paths, feeling the cool breath of the forest against your cheeks, the echoes of heroic songs strum gently upon consciousness's surface, lacing courage with curiosity through life's corporeal current. With each step, you understand that these tales, far from binding you in antiquity's cloak, pave wondrous ways for exploration beyond life's measured footprints. Here, the stories spin, entwined between your conscious experience and the hunter's ephemeral legend, the great chase not circumscribed by predators or prey, but rooting within timeless haciendas, spun from collective craft and capable vision. As the day's light wanes, leaving tendrils curled and hues washed over soaring boughs, you find solace in the knowledge that tales old and new continue encasing ancient roots among sparkling stars, their charms vastly peculiar, yet undeniably human. It's a journey both cerebral and spiritual, where history finds narrative made celestial, transforming the mundane into marvels, surrounding hunters past and present with song's honor-infused embrace. And so, bound by human spirit's infinite reach across eternities, let the hunter's role endure intertwined with nature's memorable sonnet and eternity's wandering chorus, etching a story in every element's breath and every shadow's sigh. Each step forward within hallowed forest tapestries reflects the eternal voyage between myth and man, unfolding in ephemeral embrace with mythos's fervent lore. As you navigate the sylvan expanse, the trees standing with timeless grandeur around you, the inescapable march of time becomes a palpable presence. For a medieval hunter, the passage of years is etched not just in the landscape, but in one's very bones, a narrative of endurance and adaptation. Aging in such a world offers no gentle decline, but rather an evolving challenge, where the body becomes both adversary and reflection of the passage of seasons. In youth, vigor and vitality characterize every pursuit. You move with a swiftness and surety, a seamless blend of energy and precision that the forest demands. Every step is a confident dance with the earth, every sense finely attuned to the whisperings of the wind and the silent symphony playing beneath the canopy. In these years, strength is your ally, resilience the bedrock upon which ambition is built. But over time, the daily demands and grueling conditions craft a new reality. Joints stiffen under the weight of countless treks, muscles bear tales of exertion, and the eyes that once divided shadow and light with ease now take a beat longer to adjust. Imagine each venture into the forest as a conversation with yourself, a negotiation between the fervor of spirit and the patience experience imparts. This gradual shift is not merely physical, but extends its tendrils into the psyche, inviting questions about one's role and relevance in the cycle of life. Historians ponder whether medieval hunters adjusted roles gradually, or if periods of abrupt change dictated their pace from primary providers to mentors, teaching younger generations the subtle art of the chase. The truth likely mirrors life itself, an unpredictable blend of adaptation and necessity, stories and instruction passed like invisible heirlooms. Amidst this contemplation, humor emerges as a gentle ally to a whispered camaraderie, evoked by the memory of youthful recklessness, or the bemusement found in forgetting some small detail, once effortlessly recalled. Jests exchanged with companions provide warmth as much as company, transforming inevitability into a shared acknowledgement of time's impartial tick, gratitude, radiating gently upon silver strands. Within the community, older hunters often transition into the role of mentors. No longer racing through the thickets with reckless abandon, they pass down wisdom refined by countless experiences. The subtleties of tracking, the nuances of reading the forest's secret language, and the patience required to wait for the perfect moment, these lessons become their enduring legacy, etched into the minds of younger hunters eager to learn. The forest absorbs these small evolutions, its unchanging vastness, speaking to the cycles within cycles, where every leaf dropped returns to soil, and spring blooms into summers, unyielding upon every turn. Amidst this perpetual shift, a hunter's aging process becomes a natural extension of the environment itself, marking time in a way both poetic and profound. Imagine a modern analogous seasoned practitioner of any craft reflecting in quiet moments, nestled within the laughter and industry of bustling cityscapes, wisdom shared over casual coffees where knowledge owed to seasons renders abundant returns. A cycle not defined by mere years, but by the depth of understanding passed on to eager pupils. In those moments of contemplation, the forest offers its solidarity, an unspoken witness to the passage of time and change. With each rustle of leaves, reminding you of both continuity and growth, you find a kind of peace of recognition that aging within these woods signifies not just decline, but a maturing bond with the land. Thus, as shadows stretch into dusk, aligning with the slow, inexorable pull into night, you acknowledge the complexities of growing older within the timeless embrace of nature. And in this acknowledgement blooms a profound acceptance, where existence finds renewal in legacies shared and paths smoothed by those who've journeyed before Eva into the twilight, knowing the earth shall cradle every step with gusts woven from eternity's enduring breath. So you walk on, comforted by the leaves' whispers, each breeze assuring your place within this ancient cycle. The woods bear witness to the tapestry of a hunter's life, woven with threads of strength and wisdom, courage, and changer puissante mosaic, spanning from verdant youth to the venerable embrace of sage longevity. The forest, resplendent with its layers of history and life, becomes a classroom without walls as you journey onward. Here, in this cathedral of nature, the role of the medieval hunter transcends beyond the personal challenge of survival. The forest transforms into a place of instruction, a tableau of wisdom to be passed down through apprenticeship of vital practice, ensuring that the knowledge accrued over lifetimes doesn't vanish into the obscure corners of forgotten history. In the societies of old, where written records were sparse and oral tradition reigned supreme, the apprenticeship system thrived. Hunters, having earned their stripes over years of endurance and growth, would often take on younger companions, eager to glean the secrets held within the mastery of woods and wilderness. These apprentices were not just students, but extensions of the hunter's own legacy, curious and wide-eyed, ready to absorb all that was whispered in the rustle of the leaves. Mentoring an apprentice went beyond mere instruction. It was a bond forged in shared experiences, told around fires and along the winding paths of the hunt. Younger hunters learned through immersion watching, mimicking, and then finally grasping the intricate dance between predator and prey, subtle art of reading the forest's clues. Every snapped twig or trace of fur catching the breeze offered a lesson waiting to be unearthed, a signpost in the language of the woods. In these early days of apprenticeship, an older hunter's patience became as intrinsic as their skill. Guiding tender, youthful energy demanded a steady hand and a gentle voice. The stories of past glories and mistakes, success and folly, became essential tools in teaching, each recount an embodied narrative meant to prepare young minds for their own journey. Humor often found its way into these sessions, light-hearted and filled with the gentle ribbing reserved for moments of jovial sincerity. Tales of overconfidence, resulting in fallible missteps, or the harrowing chase that turned out to be a startled hare, offered lessons wrapped in methenssuring memory without sting. Imagine a medieval satire show where characters reenact these escapades, infusing each portrayal with both jest and gentle instruction. Historians often reflect on whether hunters approached teaching as a duty to kin and community, or purely as lineage conservation. Yet, willingly or not, it was essential. As cyclic as the seasons, it conveyed understanding imparted from one life to enrich another. In passing knowledge down, hunters not only preserved their craft, but also connected with timeless tradition, etching their mark upon the young, who in turn became custodian of tales aged in whispered winds. The apprenticeship was, in many ways, a symbiotic relationship. While young hunters gained skills critical for survival, older hunters found renewed purpose through the act of teaching itself a chance to reflect, refining their own abilities through explanation. The forest, ever adaptable, became a shared space for exploration, reinterpreted through each new pair of eyes, reimagining the same paths, yet travelled through fresh understanding and nuance. Beyond the immediate impartation of knowledge, these apprenticeships ensured continuity within the community each hunter, an essential stitch within the wider fabric of village life. The young learned not just the ways of the hunt, but how to maintain the delicate balance between taking and conserving, understanding both the bounty and scarcity inherent in the natural world. You tread forward amid this spoken and silent acknowledgement, drawing the threads of ancient wisdom into today's existence, forging a roadmap that encompasses both past and future. In every whisper of the forest, echoed faintly beneath the canopy, the cadence of learning finds harmony, uniting young and old in life's unfaltering ballet. As dusk settles chilly fingers upon the advancing evening and stars begin to freckle the sky, the legacy endures. The lessons and stories remain like wisps in the night air, ensuring that the trail blazed by one generation becomes the guidance of the next, a flickering torch passed in an endless relay race to preserve the hunter's art. This continues unabated, our silhouette of continuity, mirrored in the ages woven through the echoes of footsteps disappearing into memory's moss-carpeted embrace. As you traverse the winding paths through the woods, anticipation and uncertainty accompany each step, for chance encounters in the medieval forest hold the potential to tilt fate's delicate balance. The forest is a domain where the known interacts with the unknown, where the next bend in the trail could present you with a friend or fair moment that could usher in either boon or challenge. In this realm, every encounter is laden with possibility, striking an intricate dance of awareness, intuition, and resolve. The symbiotic rhythm between a hunter and their environment is interrupted by the presence of another. This disruption may promise camaraderie, as when a fellow hunter offers aid or insight, each of you finding solace in shared expertise and common goals. Standing side by side, awaiting the forest's gifts, such alliances make the stern lines of life's challenges blur slightly into camaraderie. Conversely, a fortuitous meeting holds the risk of crossing paths with a competitor, a rival hunting the same game. In these moments, status as predator or prey shifts with shifty glances and tentative measures. You both size each other up, every movement measured as part of a silent, ritualistic language, unspoken yet richly communicated. This charged interaction embodies the complex dance of mutual respect and veiled competition. A comical irony blossoms in envisioning these encounters, transformed into medieval meet-cutes, presented in local plays or village festivals. Picture theatrical scenes where serendipitous pathways converge, misunderstandings sketched in archaic hilarity as both hunter and nonchalant companion mistake intentions, then settle into shared guffaws, lit by fireside warmth. Still, Encounters bring a broader spectrum, stumbling upon travelers, merchants moving from village to village, or even foresters patrolling their lord's land. Each carries not only the potential for exchange, but also caution's shroud, implanting impressions that ripple through shared experiences. They bring news with them, occasionally snippets of far-off worlds, sometimes rumors spun with careless tongues, always delivered upon the weight of their bearing and demeanor. Description evolves into narratives of extrapolation, where identifying details carve pathways in the forest's ethereal ward, tethered through complexity's merit. These travelers provide both companionship and tales, weaving a augmented cloak of honesty within spoken allegories often sipped, shared, and blended into folklore's lavish tinctures. Historians reflect on whether these encounters allowed mutual benefit or merely amplified the guarded instincts crucial for woodland survival. Such meetings adapt context to reflect relationships not only defined by competition and trust, but yielding amicable exchange, hedging against conflict, while smoothing social interaction between disparate journeys' connecting points. In these unpredictable meetings, society bleeds into the natural order of things, individual stories merging into shared cultural memory. The forest, within its ever-present existence, serves as neutral stage, a common ground where individual tales overlap briefly, a blessing or bane depending on circumstance and intent. Each encounter etches a subtle reminder of humanity's faceted dance with each other and the earth. Strangers may offer wisdom, hostility, mystery, or unpredictable alliance, shaping long-imagined narratives into universal truths, marked by the human need for connection, whether or not intention ascends through hopes unspoken. As shadows lengthen across the leaf-strewn path and golden light drenches the canopy above in warm amber, you acknowledge this entanglement with a reflective bow. In each meeting, girded among ancient branches and forgiving skies, the forest's breath embraces intersection as ally and adversary coalesce, in communion with vital interplay twined amid momentary intersections of time's embrace. Your place among nature's vast continuum appears with the recognition that chance brings both challenges and promises breath's shared echoes of bravery or grace. As you continue past chance and crossing, the bonds of mutual synergy shape eternal realms, where the heart finds meaning even in unpredictable dances, woven threads, mapping life's mosaic beyond harmonies, glimpsed at a glance, or shared amidst those ancient forests' graceful hymns. As you trek deeper into the forest, the day's light playing its symphony of shadows, you encounter the calculated uncertainty that each path harbors. In the life of a medieval hunter, retracing steps is both a literal and metaphorical exercise, a daily gamble where every decision carries the weight of both potential feast and enduring hardship. Each path within the forest is imbued with its own narrative, invisible lines that map out not just geography, but the tales of choices made and opportunities lost or seized. Each morning ushers a familiar routine, yet with an air of unpredictability. The forest is never static. Its denizens and pathways shift subtly, altered by the rustle of wind, the fall of a branch, or a flurry of reactions spiraling from external forces unseen. Nature's bountiful cloak hides its predictability, encouraging hunters to embrace both sharp intuition and learned experience with equal vigor. The repetition of navigation does not dull the sense of adventure. Instead, it sharpens your instincts to the stakes of each new decision. A carefully chosen path might lead directly to game, or else bring you face to face with a dead end. The forest holds no malice in its unpredictability, its impartiality merely threading through your endeavors like an ancient loom. Historians often muse upon whether these ventures imbued hunters with an innate sense of intuition, a nearly otherworldly ability to predict each shift and shadower, whether the learned pragmatism of countless trials bore fruit in climbs. Accumulated wisdom. In truth, perhaps survival lies not ascribed to mystery, but concrete observation, heightened by awareness, where curiosity guards against complacency's casualty. There's irony in imagining this daily navigation as nature's own medieval game of chance, played without rules or full understanding, each twist akin to rolling dice atop a tundra-covered tabletop. Adventures flourish as they traverse through life's rugged board game, guided not by strategy alone, but by the spontaneity of life's unpredictable interplay. But retracing steps maps out more than exploitation. Every decision is overshadowed by the possibility of returning empty-handed, the forest's bounty elusive. Each diversion to explore promising scents or flickers of movement incites anticipation bearing twin faces, triumphant catch or humble retreat. Disappointment dims, neither resolve nor respect for the source. Its mystery incited time and again in its own inimitable rhythm. Seasoned hunters know that nature thrives on risk and resilience. As you move through the labyrinth of shaded corridors and whispering trees, every undertaken path sublimates that understanding. Learning such an eternal truth carves the heart's responses, wisdom born from the endless gambits, eternally embarking across vast tablature carved in leaf and stone. This dynamic accords life its rich Nessa dance, straddling not just success, but embracing existence's uncertainties. The forest, with its myriad possibilities, mirrors life itself. Each tiny decision a calculated bet within the greater narrative. It proclaims dialogue between self and environment, where existence is balanced by bravery and agility commingling across fleeting felicity. Returning towards dusk, the familiar chorus of twilight enfolds you in a gentle embrace, the forest's mysteries both veiled and revealed by the day's revelations. Understanding that each retraced step imparts more than simple repetition, it enriches your omniscient bond with the Earth's cycle, melding footsteps into a larger tapestry where connection supersedes hesitation. In this closing light, your connection with the woods cements. Pathways marked not simply with physical traces, but by the stories cast through each day's conscious choice, to narrative that weaves through the forest's immense, forgiving arms. Here, amidst chance and choice, hope and realization, you find immortality in the cycle, sensing eternity reflected in footsteps charted through time's perfumed embrace, illuminated softly by the forest's ancient, knowing heart. As the day begins to yield to dusk, a gentle, cool breeze whispers its invitation to reflect. The monochrome world of shadows and light transforms into a serene backdrop, a canvas softening as night prepares its embrace. In the life of a medieval hunter, this twilight culmination signifies not just the close of a single day, but the gradual closure of a lifetime shaped by the eternal cycle of survival and adaptation, mirrored in nature's own enduring rhythm. Legacy, in this realm carved from earth and heart, is not handed over in gilded halls but whispered into the world on the wind. It's the quiet impact of choices made, paths walked, and lessons passed on, invisible threads spun among stories, shared not in ink, but embodied through actions, lived out under vast skies and ancient oaks. Each hunter, a custodian of tales and traditions carried forward, is a thread in this timeless tapestry of life. In the larger narrative that binds human experience to the natural world, hunters hold a sacred role as stewards, storytellers, and survivalists. Their contributions form the silent backbone of communities, bound together by shared endeavor and relentless determination. The fruits of their labor stretch beyond tables laden with game. They reach into the hearts and minds of those they leave behind, an enduring tapestry of knowledge interwoven with nature's design and ongoing perseverance. As the stars blink into view, delicate diamonds on night's cloak, the softer pace of existence offers solace. Here in the space between day's clamor and night's gentle tide, there exists a reflective pause where every breath seems a conversation with the universe, a subtle exchange made sacred through simplicity and truth. The questions historians ask may linger unanswered, for truth, as with comfort, lies within these moments of quietude and transition, knowing that within the hunt there is more than the chase. There is essence, a primal acknowledgement of humanity's integral role within life's larger weave. The forest, not merely a stage, but a companion along life's temporal arc, acts as both sounding board and quiet witness to a hunter's journey, its whispers bearing witness to stories eternal. In today's world, where the clamor of modernity often drowns out the simpler melodies of wind through trees, imagine the hunter's legacy as an enduring coda, gentle yet insistent reminder of nature's cyclical wisdom and the timeless relationship humans share with the earth. Each generation draws from this well, an awareness seldom captured in classrooms, but felt in the call of the wild. As the final embers of twilight fade into a deeper blue, a profound peace takes residence within you. You embrace this space woven between consciousness and dream, where the past informs the present, and every shadow holds the memory of footsteps once traversed by those who came before. The forest, shrouded now in comforting silence, echoes with those ancient songs of survival and continuity, a meditation softly rustling through the leaves. And so, as you finally rest beneath a canopy sown with stars, the narrative's conclusion is less an ending and more a soft pausier, knowing breath wherein survival and legacy intertwine within the ancient and ongoing mystery of existence. Every moment savored becomes part of an unending dialogue between earth, spirit, and Timmy. Lullaby, traced in the moonlit patterns of branches above, singing gently of life's illuminated brevity amidst the vast, echoing expanse. Drift peacefully within this embrace, for in medieval times as today, every breath shared with nature's whispered secrets becomes another gentle step in the legacy of a world that cradles your dreams. Sweet dreams.